Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Connor Gray and Andrew Santangelo, and folks, we have another fun show here, so stick around. Feel free to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below, because we have a lot to get to today. But starting off, as always, with the most important question of the day, guys, how are you two doing?
Doing very good. I'm just obviously very happy after what happened on Sunday, and it's pretty much been carried over to my entire week so far.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, anytime your team's in the Super Bowl, it always brings a smile to the face, especially after the run the Phillies made. So it's a fun time right now. Obviously, wish the weather was a little warmer. If it was gonna be this cold, we might as well give it some snow to get off a little bit. But
I wish.
No. I mean, this is January weather though. What else can we have? And crazy another month starting already tomorrow.
Yeah, it's hard to think. It's February tomorrow. We had the final games of January, the conference championship games. Basketball's been crazy as well. We'll get to all of that today. It's a giant episode here again, but we've got to get started with the NFC championship game. San Francisco taking on Philadelphia. The big story, obviously, Brock Purdy getting hurt first drive of the game. Josh Johnson coming in to replace him. And anytime you get down to a fourth-string quarterback, it doesn't matter how good as you are as a complete unit, something's going to break down eventually. And Philadelphia able to capitalize there in a 31-7 beatdown of the Niners to go to the Super Bowl.
I'll let the Philly fan go.
Yeah, I mean, this game was over pretty quick. I think San Francisco went long. I think Shanahan called a pretty bad game. I think there's a lot to put on his shoulders. I think we found out. I always thought he was a little overrated. I mean, anyone knows. I've talked about on the show how it was never a belief in the 49ers team. And they kept finding ways to win, credit to them. But at some point, that luck runs out, a tough road matchup. Obviously, you don't, wish an injury. But, if you would have told me that the 49ers were lining up their backup tight end against Haason Reddick, who's number 2 in the NFL in sacks this year with 17, I think anybody would have predicted that matchup was not going to go well. But for some reason, that's what San Francisco had on that play where Reddick gets to Brock and he forces the fumble. Unfortunately, it led to an injury. But, that matchup didn't change then. A few series later, they, for some reason, kept the backup tight end in there. And then Reddick drills Johnson, and then he goes down with an unfortunate injury. So, again, obviously, you don't wish an injury upon anyone, but, I question Shanahan there. One, why did you even have that matchup to begin with? And then two, why didn't you adjust and have maybe a different lineman on him or something there? One of the best defenders in the league this year. Just took advantage of a bad matchup. And then, this is a weird game overall. Once once Johnson left the game, the Eagles were up 14-7, then 21-7 after his fumble. And it was you could just tell the Eagles kind of relaxed. They just ran the ball a lot, and they even called the normal offense, and it was just an odd game because I think everyone knew this game was over. So I think the Eagles just kind of went into the second half with, let's just get out of here healthy.
Yeah, pretty much that's how it was. I think if Brock doesn't have that injury, it's at least a more competitive game. But Eagles, they were playing, they were going to win that game. But I still think Purdy probably would have probably had a solid game, but nothing that would have helped the Niners win. And just obviously when went down to Johnson, the play calling got off, and then when he had to throw Purdy back, Purdy basically couldn't throw the football because he obviously found out he hurt his UCL or whatever. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, it was UCL.
Yep. Yeah. So there was just nothing that they could have done. So basically it was just them doing sweeps, doing just whatever they could do to move the football that was just ineffective. When your quarterback can't throw the football, you're one-dimensional, and all the Eagles have to do is just stop the run, and that's all they had to do. And Jalen didn't really have to do much of anything. The Niners' defense held out as long as they could while they had a deadlock at 7-7, and then Eagles just took off from there. So.
Yeah, and that's credit to the Eagles' offensive line. That's where the Eagles won the game. You look at the drives. They went for a 14-play drive, took off 6 minutes, led to a rushing touchdown. Then they took, I think it was 11-play drive, took another 5 minutes off. For how good of this defense was always talked out to be from the 49ers, the Eagles just ran right down their throats. Yep. And it really didn't look like 49ers were much of a match there. And credit, it all starts with the offensive line, and that's where Lane Johnson's been huge. Jason Kelsey's been huge, and I mean that's why they're Pro Bowlers, and that's what you won't see because they don't. Pro Bowlers never participate when in the Super Bowl, so I mean you really won't see that this weekend. Which I mean it's a flag football game anyway, so I don't know how entertaining that's going to be to begin with. But no, I mean it's just a hard game to judge. You couldn't really take much from it, just from all the circumstances that happened. But credit to Nick Sirianni. They came out with a great game plan and better than the 49ers, and I think he outcoached Shanahan as well.
Oh, he definitely did.
Yeah, this was one of those where, Connor, you mentioned it, San Francisco being one-dimensional. I wouldn't even say they're one-dimensional. It felt more like half-dimensional. Went there. They had one play, which was give the ball to Christian McCaffrey.
Or
if they
Deebo
couldn't
Samuel.
run that one, well, they would try to give it to Deebo Samuel, and he'd usually go backwards and then usually turn it a 5-yard loss. Maybe he'd get back to the line of scrimmage.
Every time I was able to look at the TV, it was just like, oh, they're doing another wide receiver sweep. So it's like, okay. That's not going to work, but all right.
Yeah, it was one of those where this was a really I understand that it's a hard circumstance with your fourth-string quarterback in, but if you throw enough screens and just hand the ball off and do one or two basic concepts, Philadelphia's going to figure that out in a few plays. That's you have to still find a way to be creative here. You can't put everything on, okay, Christian McCaffrey's our guy, but we're going to try to do these other things as well. George Kittle's just standing right there. He's not really doing anything. I think the Eagles did a good job covering him up. I think the Eagles played about as well as you could play for a game where you're trying to just keep everything safe, don't get anybody hurt, keep just marching down the field when you need to. And, I mean, that's what you said, Andrew, and, I mean, that's pretty much what happened. Philadelphia realized, we're up 21-7. There's nothing really we can do here. The Niners have already beaten themselves.
Exactly, and you hit it spot on. I mean, it's not like you're once Brock gets hurt. It's not like you're going out there with no-name players. Like you still have some of the best weapons in the league in terms of George Kittle, Samuel, Ayuk's not bad either. So, I mean, I don't know why they didn't try to use him. I mean,
just ineffective play calling. Just
exactly. I think that's where Shanahan's got to. I mean, I think that's where he gets a lot of blame. Everyone talks about how good of a coach he is, and I mean. It just didn't. He didn't show it, and even the initial game plan with Brock. I mean, in the start of that game, I mean, they go 3 and out, I think it was, and then he comes in, and they get the turnover. So like, he just never showed himself. And again, that's credit to the Eagles coaching staff for out coaching him.
Also, we were robbed of McCaffrey QB5, and I'm disappointed in that. I was really looking forward to it once they started teasing it. Like, please, just put McCaffrey in a quarterback. Just run QB power. It'd be hilarious, but never happened. Never happened. But moving on to the AFC Championship game, this one a bit more competitive than the NFC one. The Chiefs taking on the Bengals. This was about everything you would expect this game to be. Kansas City gets up to an early lead. The Bengals try to claw their way back. They eventually tie the game. But when Kansas City has to make plays down the field, Patrick Mahomes pretty much gimping around out there at times, able to get down the field, and Butker with the game-winning field goal to get the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl in a 23-20 win.
Yeah, this one was you're on the edge of your seat pretty much the whole time because you had amazing plays that kept happening. Obviously, started off field goals. Kansas City up 6-0. Bengals get a field goal of their own. You're up. Then Chiefs get a huge touchdown to Kelsey. Then Bengals pretty much down by 7 at the half. Then Bengals came right back firing, and basically teams were trading touchdowns, and then it came down to which defense was going to step up, and both sides were doing their best. And sadly, if you're a Bengals fan, it ended on a late hit after Mahomes literally took 2 steps out of bounds, and then it set Butker up for the game-winning field goal. I mean, both teams fought hard. I mean, both defenses played really well in this game. They kept each other at bay. I know Mahomes, he had a great game, despite the fact he was basically playing on one leg good amount of the time. And then Kansas City's defense just getting 2 picks off Burrow. One they did capitalize on. The other one they didn't really do anything with the ball. And then this is one where a lot of uproar with terrible officiating. I'm like, there was bad officiating throughout the game, but the fact that people want to say the game was somehow rigged is just complete idiocy at this point.
Yeah, I think the better team won here with better players. The better coach won. He outcoached Taylor here and Andy Reid. I mean, is the game rigged? No, but I get where people are coming from. I mean, there was some calls there, since you mentioned, especially the extra third down. I think that's what gets everybody mad. That leads to the penalty there, giving the Chiefs the first down. So that obviously did not make fans happy, as it should have went to Cincinnati. Again, I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm just saying I understand where people are coming from.
Well, I can understand the anger, but the issue was you had a ref that was running in, blowing a whistle that people just did not hear, and they literally show a replay of a ref running right in there to try to stop the play, and that's why they redid the down, even though shouldn't have amounted to anything. It ended up being a hold that gave Kansas City an extra 3 downs that they did nothing with the ball with. So obviously that's one where I will probably agree that should never have happened, but it did. As everyone, including Kansas City, was baffled because they're like, "Wait, what just happened?" So that's not something that's really that's just something that they should have fixed before the play ever went off, but they never did it. So it's just one of those things where just like a lot of the things that people you have people that were like telling like Cincinnati just did not win. They weren't the better team. They lost to a better team in Kansas City, which, like you said, but you have ones that are still trying to make excuses for why the Bengals lost on that.
Well, and those are the trolls out there. They don't care who won the game. They're gonna troll people to get people to come at them on social media. That's just what they're there.
And also,
that's just what they're doing.
And people are also at a point where they believe that the NFL is trying to make Kansas City the next dynasty.
If they wanted to do that, they would have done that a while ago.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have let them.
Yeah, it's like, first of all, they would have done that last year.
Yeah.
Since that, if it came down to they wanted the Chiefs so badly, Chiefs would have made the Super Bowl almost every year. Would have went last year. Instead, they didn't. Cincinnati did. So it's one of those things where it's like you can't just go from it was a fair game, which Chiefs will admit, yeah, we lost that game last year, to all of a sudden it's now rigged. That makes no sense. It's just one of those things where people wanted a certain team to win, and it didn't happen. But it was one heck of a game. I'll just give it that. It was a great game by both teams. Burrow, when it mattered, he was clutch when you needed him to, but just wasn't clutch enough. The offense just made too many mistakes. Defense gave up just enough where Kansas City was able to capitalize, and it was just a great game.
Yeah, to me, I mean, the big issue of the night for the Bengals was, once again, the offensive line. When you're running on empty there again, when it comes to injuries and depth and all of that, Kansas City was able to get to Burrow at times just seemingly whenever they wanted to. And you're always going to be fighting an uphill battle when you can't get out of your own way.
Joe Burrow should not be your leading rusher. Like, that says it all. That says it all about how bad the offensive line was, to your point.
Yeah, and one thing, that championship game was the first time Chris Jones ever got a sack in the playoffs, and he got 2 of them. I know it came against a Bengals offense that was really, really banged up, but still, I'm happy for Chris Jones to finally get over that hump of not getting a sack.
Yeah, and then Valdez-Scantling, he had a pretty good game for the Chiefs. I mean, 6 catches for 116. He had a pretty good game. I thought it was an interesting strategy by Andy Reid to kind of have Kelsey out there, but with his back issue, you didn't want to use him too much. Well, that eventually wasn't a problem. Kelsey was still able to get wide open whenever he needed to. Mm-hmm. That's just what happens in Kansas City's offense.
I mean, it's like Kelsey throughout the whole season has been the best receiver for that offense, and yet people seem to always forget to cover him.
Well, they put Eli Apple on him, and that made no sense to me. It was like, okay, why are you putting Eli Apple one-on-one with Travis Kelce? Why? Why would you do that?
They fell for Eli Apple's tweets.
Yeah, I guess so.
Talking all the smack before the game, they bought into it.
I guess so.
all that talk from Cincinnati fans, especially the mayor, suck it.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. It's Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl, so
Oh, the salt is going to be really.
It's not like we have an Eagles and Chiefs fan on this show or anything. It's not like we're gonna.
Don't worry, we'll get there.
We'll get there next week when we actually talk about the game. But we've got some news to talk about because as of about 2 hours ago now, Sean Payton will officially be the next head coach of the Denver Broncos. The Broncos trading their first-round pick this year, the 29th overall, and a future second-round pick, next year's second-round pick indeed, for the Saints' third-round pick and Sean Payton. And the Broncos intend to throw just about all the money they can at him to keep him there. And it's going to be interesting because Denver is a situation that is rough right now. And I mean, if you've watched any Broncos game this year, any quarter of Broncos football this year, you could figure out that it's a pretty rough situation, but we'll see if Sean Payton can turn it around or not.
I will say Denver actually could play well against Kansas City. The offense could get something going, but I will say for this one, it definitely you got a head coach that will hopefully bring some stability to the situation, and hopefully, if you're a Broncos fan, can help them at least be competitive. I mean, I know injuries was definitely a big thing, and obviously a lot of issues from head coach and Russell Wilson just severely underperforming especially compared to what his contract is. So it's one of those things where you got to hope that things will just get better if you're a Broncos fan.
Yeah, my initial thoughts here, I mean, the Broncos are throwing out a prayer that Payton can fix Russell Wilson because they know it's the last hope after trading everything for Wilson and everything. But, I mean, my first initial thoughts are Saints run away with a huge win here in this trade. They don't have a first-round pick this year as they already gave it to the Eagles. So how do they make up for it? They somehow get a first pick. I don't know what Denver's doing here. I mean, the Saints have absolutely no leverage. Like, this is a coach that retired. They already have a coach, so he's not going to go back to the Saints. I don't know why you're giving up a first-round pick here. I get you're probably competing against other teams, but for a team that was that bad last year, and, I mean, you have a lot of holes to fix outside of just Russell Wilson. And you're right, Connor, about the injuries, but it goes beyond that. I mean, you're giving up a first and a second-round pick. I mean, that's surprising to me that you had to give up that much for a guy who is retired and a guy who's not going to coach the Saints. It was either he's going to stay retired or I mean, I don't know. I feel like you could have got something better out of it than giving up a first and a second-round pick.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, again, I think it's a prayer here for the Broncos that he's able to come in, fix Wilson, they can stay healthy next year, and they can move on from there. But, I mean, this was a little bit of a head-scratcher on Denver's standpoint in my eyes. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what he's able to do. He's been out of the league for a little bit. I mean, we see Mike McCarthy. He kind of did that. He left for a little bit, came back. He still hasn't been able to win the big game, kind of with how the game's changed. So we'll see what Sean Payton's able to do. But even his last few years with the Saints, you kind of saw his, I don't want to call it greatness run out, but you saw his teams kind of die down a little bit there toward the end of his career. So I'm interested to see how this works out.
I am too. To me, this is one of those that almost feels like Denver was getting desperate to me. Yeah. When you have to start using your first-round pick as bait to try to get something out there. There were, multiple rumors Denver's going to try to go after, maybe Jim Harbaugh, maybe try to get some other guy. They're trying to find any person they can. And they finally decide, okay, let's pull the trigger and see if we can get Sean Payton. And the Saints were able to turn a no-leverage situation into something they had control over. So I think the Saints deserve some credit here.
Well, when you're working with a team that basically just showed that it was so desperate for anything, you can literally just seem like ask for anything. So that's something where that's horrible job on Denver, but good job for the Saints for playing up that desperation that they could get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good job by the Saints, turning nothing into something somehow. And the other head coaching hire of the day, as DeMeco Ryans, who's the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, is now the new head coach of the Houston Texans. So, obviously, a bit of good news for Houston, hopefully for Texans fans. They're desperate out here. This is a team that, you're just trying to get back to being competitive again. You had the 3-win season this year, and this is going to be an interesting situation, I think. This could be one of those big-time moves, or it could absolutely be another failure. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I love this chance of DeMeco Ryans. He was a fantastic player, played a long time at Houston, played most of his career there. He's been very successful in the D.C. spots there with the 49ers. So I think this is a great move for Houston. Not that it really matters for coaches. Obviously, since you get some fired, then some guaranteed money. But the 6 years kind of raised my eyes a little bit just because he's never been a head coach before. So that seemed like a lot for a first-time head coach. But again, I don't think really in the long run the years matter a whole lot. But no, I think this is a phenomenal hire here for the Texans. Especially with you're not. I mean, it's always tough to find one of the better coaches out there when you have a situation like Houston where you were that bad. I mean, it's not like you're taking over like. Oh, listen, I love Doug Pearson, obviously, but also him taking over a Jaguars team with Trevor Lawrence already there. That probably helps him out a little bit. D'Amico Ryans is not taking a team over here with the franchise quarterback already there and some weapons. So we'll see what he's able to do with that Houston team. Obviously, they have the second overall pick. There's rumors they're trying to trade for the first overall pick. I wouldn't if I was them. I mean,
no, because you're where you're positioned at, you can literally just have the quarterback you need to fall right in your lap because Chicago is not desperate for a quarterback because they already have their guy. The only thing they would need is to either trade down to get a bunch of picks for so they can pick up more skill and players for whether it be for the offense or defense, or just sit on it. And but Chicago holds all the hands, and Texans do not need to do anything.
Yeah, they're just worried the team's going to trade up for Chicago and take the quarterback that they so believe. I just don't think there's a big difference between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud.
No, there's not.
I think you could go fine with either one of them. So I don't. That's where I am. I mean, I think the Chicago Bears will not pick first overall. It's a matter if another team jumps them. That's what Houston's scared of, in my opinion. But no, again, I think D'Amico Ryans was one of the best candidates out there. And I think that's a great hire here for Houston, and hopefully he can change that team back.
And that's what I'm thinking. I think this is a good hire for the Texans. Like you said, Andrew, the main thing that worries me is that 6-year deal because you don't want to get stuck in a perpetual mediocrity where you get in that situation of, okay, if you go 7-10 or 7-10 back-to-back years or something like that, then you got to start worrying about where do you want to be. But I think this is a good hire for them. I'm just a bit worried for their future, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I always say 3 to 4 years, I think, for a first-year head coach is perfect because – you probably take about 2 years to fully get the team you want. Then you get a third year kind of growing, and then the fourth is where, okay, here's your make-or-break year, and then your contract's kind of expired. But I guess the situation with Houston, you might have to give him 3 years to get the team he wants, and then the fourth and fifth year there. But no, that's always where I'm at. Is I think it takes you 2 or 3 to kind of bring in the full team you want, which, especially in college, obviously NFL is a little different because if you have the money, you can go out and buy every free agent if they're willing to go to you. But we'll see how that goes.
We absolutely will. But speaking of college, you brought it up, Andrew. That's the next thing to get to here. Not college football, but college basketball. We haven't done one of these in a little bit. It's been about a whole year since we've talked about the AP Top 25 in men's basketball. And sitting right at top, number 1, the Boilermakers. Unanimous. All 62 votes going to Purdue, and for good reason. The Boilermakers have been able to do just about everything you expect from a team that wants to play for a national title this year. Zach Edey, yes, he's tall. We all know that. He's 7'4", but he's more than just a tall guy out there on the court. He can do just about anything you need him to do in that paint area and go to work. But it's been such a fun season so far for Purdue to watch. Tennessee's number 2, Houston number 3, Alabama falling to 4, and Arizona number 5 to round out the top 5 there. Virginia, K-State, Kansas, UCLA, and Texas rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, I think Purdue, without question, has been the best team in college basketball, and I think they continue to prove it with the talent around them. I think everything else, even if you want to go as far as March Madness, I think it's all up for grabs. But I think if you had to pick one right now, Purdue's the best team. And then outside of that, I think you could throw the rest of that probably top 5 or 6 into a hat and pick from there on where you want to seed them. I think without question the Big 12 has been the best conference top to bottom. Overall, I don't think there's much argument around there. But, no, it's been a fun year of college basketball already, and it's only going to get better as we go on. And I will say this, way to mess it up tonight, college basketball. You have a top 10 matchup, 7 and 8 going at it tonight, a rematch of 2 big-time state rivals in Kansas State and Kansas. But, hey, let's put that game on ESPN+. I mean, good job.
Well, they got to show Kentucky Ole Miss, Andrew.
They
have the rights to that. ESPN+ has the rights to the Big 12, so – that's why that gets shafted there, even though, it's a top 10 matchup.
No, I know. And I think
that's one where you got to call an audible, in my opinion, on that, but it's what it is. One thing that makes really not a lot of sense to me, why Alabama only dropped 2 spots, by fact, They got basically almost blown up by 30 points by Oklahoma.
Sir, they were up 32. I will listen. We're the best 9-loss team in America.
I mean, Alabama's a really good team. Like
They are.
If before that game, you could argue they were almost the best team. I mean, they are playing very good basketball. They're in a tough SEC conference. One loss, you're not going to drop them down. I mean, they got tougher road than Arizona, Virginia, and them. So
I mean, now for granted, yes, I would agree that Alabama prior to that game was one of the better teams in the country. But I'm like, if you're one of the better teams in the country, you don't get lambasted by that many points. So that's one where they should have at least dropped a couple more spots, not only 2. That's where my gripe was.
I just don't think the other teams behind them are better than that. I mean, it's not like they got 6 losses. I mean, they got just as many losses. And, I mean, yeah, everyone has a bad night. I mean, I know I'm going to just pull from some of my favorite teams, but I know Villanova, when they won the championship, they got blown out to Gonzaga in the regular season. Cade, I know you know OU blew them out in the regular season. I forget what tournament that was. That was one of those.
Pearl Harbor Invitational.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it was just a bad night for Alabama. I didn't expect them to drop too much. I mean, they got some good wins on their schedule already.
Yeah, and that's one of the things in college basketball that I find funny, so different from college football. You know, you can lose 4 or 5 games. It doesn't matter. It's not like football where you have to win every single game. As long as you have that good strength of schedule, you know, like Alabama did. You can go be down 32 with 2 minutes left to get absolutely blown up in Norman, and it's not really going to change a whole lot. It is interesting, though. It is a fun topic. And then look at the rest of the top 25. Baylor at 11, Gonzaga 12, Iowa State 13. Marquette, they're the high risers of this season. I mean, no one really talking about Marquette when this season got underway. Here they are at 14. TCU 15, Xavier 16, Providence 17, St. Mary's up to 18, and Florida Atlantic, the real kind of underdog story of the year, both the Owls and Charleston as well. But Florida Atlantic at 19, Clemson at 20, Indiana 21, San Diego State 22, Miami falls to 23, UConn falls to 24, and Auburn nearly falls out, but they stay in at number 25.
Yeah, I think out of this group, the most fun team here is Baylor. I mean, teams struggled a little bit once conference play got going, a little bit before conference, has really turned it on. They're back. They're healthy. They got most of their guys back now, and they've really flipped the switch, and they got a great coach and Scott Drew. I think Baylor, I mean, obviously not right now. They had a tough loss last night to Texas too, but I think Baylor, top to bottom, might be my favorite, or think they're the best talented team in the Big 12, and it would be my pick to win the conference playoffs. I mean, I think, yeah, when they started slow, missing a couple guys, it's going to be tough to bounce back and get all the way up to win the conference. But I think they're that good where they can go on a run, get steal the Big 12 playoffs there, and kind of get a 2 seed in the March Madness. I think they're the team to look out for in this group. And then it's fun having Miami back in the rankings, a big team like that. I mean, the drop off UConn. I mean, how high they had so many good wins out of conference. They get to Big East play and they just get beat up. And they're not even really missing guys; they're just losing games. Yep. And they're in jeopardy of falling out of the rankings. I mean, it's kind of crazy how quick their season turned.
Yeah, and I mean, talking more in the mid-major side of things, St. Mary's at 18. That's something that the Gales have just slowly been creeping up the poll. They had the big win against BYU, able to hold on there at the end. The Gales are always a fun team to watch. They remind me of Virginia or Wisconsin. They're not going to beat you with speed or anything like that. They'll do the opposite. You have to play almost a perfect game to beat a team like St. Mary's. It's what makes them so fun to watch.
Absolutely. And same with, we'll see where they get put seeded-wise in the March Madness, but, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, as you mentioned, Charleston, kind of stinks to see them fall out of the rankings here, but they were in the rankings for a while. So just schools like that, you get battling back and forth, and they're not in the rankings, but I think they were for a little bit.
Yep, Charleston was.
Well, Utah State, I think they're another team you've seen kind of bounce around. They went on once conference play, they lost a couple, but they can get things going and find a way to get into March Madness. They're a team that you could find, not expected to, but find a team to kind of win a couple games there. But, no, just down the stretch, it's going to be fun to watch the Big 12. I mean, it's just going to be a battle back and forth, and listen, if either one of the Oklahoma schools can go on a run down the stretch, I think one of them will sneak into March Madness. It's up to which one, I think, at this point, who can kind of go on a hot run, and I think you find out Wednesday. I think if OSU's obviously able to sweep OU, then obviously they get the hand and advantage there. But, I mean, I think that with how good the Big 12 is this year, I think you could see one of them get in with 13 losses. Like, I know it's kind of rare usually, but with how good and the Pompey rankings has the conference, if you can hang on with 12 losses in the regular season and then win 1 or 2 games in the Big 12 playoffs and then take that 13th loss to, say, a Kansas or Baylor there in that third round, I think you still sneak in there over some of those lower teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the dream a lot of Big 12 people talked about. You know, the idea of maybe 8, possibly even 9 now. Texas Tech just got a big win over Iowa State yesterday. There's a possibility you could get 7, 8, and maybe even 9 if everything truly goes your way, getting that many Big 12 teams in the big dance.
Yep.
But looking at the final thing we're going to talk about here, we are going to talk about the Big 12 a little bit more because, ladies and gentlemen, it finally happened. The Big 12 football schedule's finally out. People have been asking for a long time. It took till the last day of January. We're finally here. The Big 12 schedule is out for 2023, and with the newcomers coming in, we officially have the Big 14 for at least a year, maybe 2, maximum 2. But looking at it, I mean, some of the big things here, I mean, Texas going to get that big game at Houston. That's been something Houston fans have wanted for a while now. BYU gets a huge home game against Oklahoma. There's going to be a lot of fun with all these schools mixing and matching. OU goes to Cincinnati as well. Kansas State, they've got big games as well. And one that sticks out to me, OU TCU on Black Friday this year. It'd be a return to something Oklahoma hasn't done in a long time, which would be playing a Black Friday game in Norman.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun matchups here. I think I read West Virginia and I think Oklahoma State are the only 2 teams to face every single newcomer here in the Big 12. I have no idea how they had that work out like that, but I think I read that those 2 were the only teams that face every newcomer.
Man, that screen is messing my eyes up.
the background of the picture?
No, it's just all of this.
Oh, okay.
All of this. The background's actually fine. It's just all of this.
All
that's
the white and gray.
causing my eyes just to go all over the place.
But no, I think it's an interesting matchup here, and I'm trying to. I never can see anyway, even with my glasses. But does that say OSU and Kansas State are on Friday?
Yes.
What Friday is that?
That is October 6th.
But they usually do Friday games?
No, they're just the Big 12. I remember reading they're going to start trying to do some Thursdays and Fridays as well to try to dominate the market and be the only game available on those days.
And
I mean, that's a good fun game, obviously, if both teams pan out the way you want them to, but I didn't. It just seemed like a random Friday.
I think with also something my dad mentioned, especially with the newcomers, they're used to playing the Thursday and Friday games, so inserting that into the Big 12 isn't really anything new for those teams. It's going to be something to adjust for the other teams since they usually only typically play on Saturdays for conference games. I think to do this now, you actually get the game more viewership and can dominate the market.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And again, I can't read it. What's under OU Texas?
Oh, it just says Dallas. Just a
neutral,
reminder that it's a neutral.
Again,
site.
I can't read it.
It's okay.
It's small text.
It is small text. They made it small for a reason. But I mean, yeah, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, OSU getting that kind of stretch, meeting all the newcomers there. Late October, you get the final Bedlam in Stillwater for a while. You have, let's see, look at some of the other games here. Obviously, big one, K-State hosting TCU this year, the Big 12 Championship rematch, October 21st. Going to be a lot of fun. Always is when the Big 12 gets together because you really do never know what's going to happen.
I just love that. Shout out to Villanova, too, making this little schedule here.
Yeah, they get UCF for a game. That's another fun one. The Dylan Gabriel Bowl, October 21st as well. UCF comes to Norman. Interesting scenario there. Winner gets his socks. I don't know. He's got a sock collection that he sells. So
yeah, I think there's some fun out of conference matchups here too. Kansas State, Missouri. I know Missouri is not great like they used to be, but just on paper, that seems like a fun matchup. I think you have obviously Texas Alabama rematch. Again, depending on which Texas Tech team shows up, but Texas Oregon could be fun.
Oh, the West Virginia Penn State.
Yeah, so West Virginia Penn State to open the year is a sleeping match. That West Virginia Pitt game last year was awesome, so you expect that to be a fun matchup. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati Pitt, so I think there's a lot of fun. Again, obviously, like you said, Cade, the Big 12 on top of everything else, but I think there's a lot of fun ones outside the conference as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that will just about do it for our show tonight as we get ready to get on out of here. Any final thoughts on what has been a wild weekend?
No, I mean, again, it stinks we have to wait 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. I get the Pro Bowl and everything. You want everybody to be healthy, and that's why I do that. So I don't disagree with it, but it just stinks having to wait for 2 whole weeks there before.
I mean, for my Chiefs, I'm glad there's that 2 weeks because all the skill guys are basically dead.
No. I'm just talking from a fan standpoint.
For a fan standpoint, you want it to be here, but like for me as a Chiefs fan, I'm glad there's that 2 weeks, so at least you can hope some of those guys can at least come back. But because like Eagles are pretty much rested almost everybody in that game, so no one really got hurt, seriously hurt. While as Kansas City, almost all the main contributors got hurt within the first half.
Yeah.
So that's one where it's like, I'm just glad that's where it is.
So where are you guys at on the Pro Bowl? Like, you guys got even tune in this weekend?
No. I have never cared about the Pro Bowl in my entire life. I will watch 5 minutes of it on Disney XD for the joke that it's on Disney XD, and then I will go back to watching basketball.
I mean, what about like the skills competition? Like, are you that interested at all? Or
that's just something fun. I don't mind looking at it on the side or see the highlights for it, but otherwise, I'm not really gonna watch it. I mean, reason why I just don't care for that, I've quit caring for the Pro Bowls because it's not. I understand it's an all-star game. It's not supposed to be as serious, but I really wish they did treat it more like an actual football game instead of, we literally can't hit the quarterback can't be touched. So that's one of those things where it's like, can we at least treat it like somewhat of a real football game instead? Like they can be high school about it if they want to, but it's like at least try to win a game instead of just joking around like it's nothing.
Especially because the players in the Super Bowl aren't playing. So hypothetically, obviously I'm not wishing an injury upon anyone, but hypothetically, if you do twist your ankle or something, you got all off season, you're gonna be fine by the time next year happens. Like unless you tear your ACL, then now it becomes a serious injury. But like a fluke injury or something small like that, you'll have plenty of time to get back for the season.
Yeah,
it's one of those I've never really cared about the Pro Bowl or anything that goes on about it. It's unlike any other one because at least like the 3-point contest in the NBA or a dunk contest or even the NHL doing the 3-on-3 games and skill challenges like that. Those at least happen during the season, so you want to see the best players while they're, getting ready for the playoff push. That's what it always is the signifier to me. To me, it's just, what's going on? I just want to watch the Super Bowl, man. Why are we doing this? That's how I've always felt about it.
That's a fair statement.
If they would move the Pro Bowl to like in between like week 9 and week 10 or something,
and give the teams basically a second bye.
Yeah, and give them a second bye and have those players go out and do whatever and have fun. I would be down for that. I would probably maybe consider that. As a Sunday, like okay, let's watch all the best guys, but no one's gonna do that.
Yeah, it's like the NFL will never do it because everything's got to be on schedule.
Yeah.
They're dead set in their ways. You have to play the whole season, and you have the Pro Bowl that no one really cares as much about.
Yeah, but it's just having that gap week in the playoffs just throws everything off because you watch these two games, you get excited, you go, okay, it's we're here, we're at the well now you gotta wait a week.
Let's watch the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, let's watch the Pro Bowl. No, instead just go back and watch Chiefs Bengals again or something. I don't know. Go watch a basketball game.
See, you know what they'll never do, but would actually be kind of cool, is if I don't know how you'd actually schedule it, but maybe if you add a few weeks to the college season, and you do the college championship this Sunday instead of the Pro Bowl, and you have that be like the big game before the Super Bowl, because that would actually be enticing. Okay,
yeah, it would.
I'm gonna take a week off from the NFL as they rest up, and you could still have it where because they wait like a year before the championship actually happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still go into like right before break, like winter break for games, and then have a whole winter break, and then I guess it's still a little longer than it would usually be, so that probably wouldn't work out. But I don't know. Yeah, you need something more entertaining than the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I need something that actually pique my interest, not flag football. If I wanted to see that, I could go to a field about anywhere in America on certain days.
You couldn't watch Derek Carr play flag football though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I couldn't watch Huntley play flag football.
I saw the 3 AFC quarterbacks. I'm just like, how is this supposed to excite me?
Yeah, like I'm watching good but not great players. Like, come on, guys, play flag football. I don't know what you want me to do, NFL, because I'm not going to watch that. But anyways, as always, thank you all for tuning in. For Andrew Santangelo and Connor Gray, I'm Cade Kennedy. If you enjoyed this episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats, feel free to once again subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below, or follow us on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram at NWTV7. That's NWTV7. Until next time, everybody, have a good one.